Hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope you remember my last video where I made a kilt for my boyfriend for an upcoming dance event with a Celtic theme, but of course I need something to wear myself as well. So today I'm going to be making something for myself. I don't really know too much about the traditions of Celtic culture and what you would wear as a woman, but I'm just going to be making something based off of a little bit of medieval time clothing, combined with some practical things and some other designs that I've seen here and there. What I want to make is a split side skirt. It's going to be mostly based on the split side skirt made from Charlie at Get to the Stitchery. I'll leave a link to the tutorial of that in the description so that you can check it out for yourself. And I've actually made this skirt that I'm going to be making today before in this color here. I was really happy with how it turned out. It's very comfortable and I wore it all day at a fantasy festival. But I actually want to make a very similar skirt in a brown color, which is why I got this fabric right here. It has a pinstripe on it as well, which I kind of like. I wasn't sure about it at first, but I grew to like it a lot. And I'll be making basically a very similar skirt again, and this time also with a corset bodice on top of it. Now I have a couple of shirts that I can wear with it, but I do actually have this fabric left over from the blouse that I made with the kilt last time, and I'll be using that to make myself a blouse as well. Now because the skirt needs the biggest pieces of fabric and it's then easier to fit the corset body pieces around that on the fabric that I have left over, I'm gonna start off with the skirt. I'm making this skirt into a full circle skirt because why the hell not? But because it's a full-length skirt, I'm not going to be able to fit the full circle on the width of the fabric. So I'm cutting out 2 half circles. Starting with a smaller circle that fits my waist and then the large circle for the bottom of the skirt. For this skirt I actually need 2 waistbands, and this little bit right here is perfect to cut those out. I want each of the waistbands to be quite thick, about a little less than 10 centimeters. So I'll mark this at 20 and fold them over. Because the fabric is still folded over, I'll end up with 2 of them. Let's make sure this is straight before we cut. Both of these waistbands actually need to be roughly my waist measurements because we'll be folding them over each other to make sure that I can tie together the back side and the front side and have a skirt that is adjustable to my size. Having it be adjustable is actually kind of important to me because my size fluctuates quite a bit. So by making sure it is a little bit adjustable, I can keep wearing it for a longer period of time. And of course, after that, I still needed to cut out the other half circle skirt. I want to give this skirt quite large pockets because when walking around a festival, which I am planning on doing with this skirt, it's very useful to have some extra storage space. To make the pockets, I'll be cutting out 2 back pieces and 2 front pieces, 1 for each pocket. The back pieces will be a little bit bigger than the front pieces because they'll overlap with the back of the skirt to make sure that no skin is showing. The front piece of the pocket also has a hole for my hand. And I'm cutting a matching hole out of the front part of the skirt where I will sew the 2 together. Now that we have the front and back piece of the pockets finished, I do actually want to put some inner pockets in here to make it easier to reach my phone and other small items like that. Alright, now that I've cut out all the pieces for the skirt, I'll be just putting them to the side for now and continue cutting the things out for the body to put that together first. For the body, I do actually have a pattern that I made earlier for something else and that I altered a little bit to fit what I want this time. Each half will consist out of 3 pieces, which means I need 6 pieces total. But because I want to do a lining as well as an outer side, I need every piece 4 times, so I'll need 12 pieces total. After cutting out the pieces out of the regular fabric, I also cut out the same pieces out of some interfacing because I want a little bit more structure to this bodice. I am only adding interfacing to the lining, so I need each piece out of interfacing twice, once for the left and once for the right side. Time to iron those onto the fabric before we start sewing. The sewing of the bodice was pretty straightforward. I just took all 6 pieces of the lining and all 6 pieces of the outer fabric, which I guess is the same fabric, and sewed together the lining and the outside first. So the reason I actually started with the bodice, even though I cut out the skirt pieces first, was because I already have the blue skirt. So since I'm a little bit on a time crunch, I want to get the bodice finished first so that I can wear it with the blue skirt if necessary as well, although I would prefer to wear the brown one if I get it finished in time. Alright, I now have a lining and an outer piece of fabric, and now I'll be pinning them together inside out with the top and the bottom and leaving the sides open so I can pull it inside out later. After turning it inside out, I did end up top stitching the edges just to give it a cleaner finish. I then folded in the edges in the armhole and the sides, and then top stitched those as well. Sewing the seams closed in armholes like this is always a little bit finicky, but I haven't really figured out a better way to do this than just fold over the seams and stop stitch it. But because it's kind of a small hole, you need to turn your fabric a lot, which always is a little bit iffy. But it usually turns out alright. While finishing this off, I could already tell that the interfacing is giving just the right amount of structure to this fabric. After that, really the only thing I had to do was hammer in the ringlets for the lacing. To do this, I always have a setup where I take a plank that I can use as a stable surface that I don't mind getting damaged a little, and then I'll put a towel on top of it to make sure that the wood doesn't damage the fabric. I also make sure to do this on top of my carpet so that this entire situation doesn't damage the floor either. Then I use the tools to first make a little hole into the fabric, put the ringlet through it, and then hammer the ringlet shut. And then I only need to do this about 15 more times. But after that, the bodice is finished. Moving back to the skirt. I'm starting the construction of the skirt by putting together the pockets, starting by putting this inner pocket onto the back piece. I've measured this inner pocket on my phone, so I'm sure it'll fit, because that is probably the thing I want to keep in here the most. The pocket on the other side will have a smaller inner pocket just for some random trinkets like safety pins and hairpins, stuff like that I always tend to put in my pockets and then lose. After that is on, I'm adding the front of the pocket, but I'm sewing it together inside out first so I can make French seams. After turning it inside out, I top stitched the seams and also closed up the one remaining seam of the front piece, leaving just the hole of the pocket open. Lastly, I just hemmed the remaining rough edges. Now that the pockets are done, it's time to attach them to the front half of the skirt. This is actually very similar to how you would do it for regular pants, but as you can see, part of the backside of the pocket sticks out a little bit to make sure that where the slit between the two halves is, no skin will be showing. And this is the front of the skirt with the pockets attached. As you can see, there's plenty of space to put a lot of stuff in. And then it's time to move on to adding the waistband. I have a separate waistband for the front and the back half of the skirts, and I start off by folding them over and ironing them like that so that they stay in this position while I pin them on. After stitching on the waistband, we now have a back half finished and the front finished. Now that the waistband is on, it is actually time to put together the front and back half of it. And I was going to do this with French seaming because of the fraying of the fabric, but I actually ended up by accident cutting both of these half circles on the selvage of the fabric, so just a single seam will be fine actually, so that is great. I will be sewing them from the bottom up until roughly halfway up until the pocket, so that there's no hole, but because there's this slit in the side, it gives a little bit more adjustability to the skirt. After that is done, all that is left is to hem the entire bottom of the skirt and to add some more ringlets to the front and back so it can actually close. But after that, the skirt is finished. I love this dress. I love both the skirt and the top separately and together as well. I actually have a white t-shirt I can wear underneath it as well. You can match it with the blue skirt. So it's very versatile and I love wearing it. As you can see, there's a lot of fabric in the skirt, so turning in it is absolutely great. And because of the split skirt design, it's also completely adjustable to my own size every time, so that is perfect. Now, as you can tell, I'd never ended up making the long sleeve blouse, and this had a couple of reasons. First of all, it was gonna be pretty tight time-wise, and secondly, I decided that it was actually a pretty stupid idea to try to make a long sleeved shirt when you already have a short sleeved one, and you're going to an event that is usually too warm to function in rather than too cold. So I do still want a long sleeved shirt for when I'm wearing this outside, but for now, this is gonna be it. Now, in general, my goal is to have some sort of mini wardrobe or a capsule wardrobe for fantasy types of events, and this is a perfect addition to it. Besides the fact that I just love how it looks, it's also fairly practical with the large pockets, and it's very comfortable to wear. The skirt is also not too long, so I can move in it very comfortably without stepping on it. It's just great, and I absolutely love it. That was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time when I'm making something completely different again. But until then, have a nice day. Bye!